Maybe love languages and that entire model don't apply in these relationships, and we're better versed to talk about survival languages. And these may relate to things like what gets things done in this relationship without conflict, what keeps me from getting yelled at, what minimizes gaslighting.
Now, some of you may be familiar with Dr. Gary Chapman's model of the 5 love languages. These are meant to be the ways that we want to receive love within a relationship. In Dr. Chapman's model, he holds that the reason relationships start going south is because the two partners are not speaking each other's love language. For those of you who don't know them, and hopefully you all have taken the quiz by now, the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. These are meant to be the ways you want to receive love and what works for you, and then figure out your partner's love language. They can take the test too, so you can meet them where they're at. Dr. Chapman's thesis is that if you are an acts of service person, for whom love is best shown by doing things like helping with chores or taking the car to the shop, and you are in with a physical touch partner, your partner may be full of hugs, which is what works for them, but for you, the hugs are not nearly as important as getting the oil changed and the dishwasher fixed. So all of this is lovely and it's super fun, but what the hell are you supposed to do if you're in a relationship with a narcissist? Because I can promise you one thing, they don't care about your love language. And frankly, their love language is that they only want you to give them words of affirmation all the time, perform nothing but acts of service for them, give them gifts, spend time with them only when they want, and have sex whenever they want. That's a lot of love languages they're expecting from you. I can also say that if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, your love language may have more than a few obscenities than I can say on this YouTube channel, if you understand what I mean. So let's break it down. Now, again, if you don't know your love language, we've put a link in the notes for this video where you can take the quiz and figure it out. Again, it's kind of fun, but you may already know yours. So let's break down what happens to you in a narcissistic relationship, depending on your so-called love language. Let's start with number 1, words of affirmation. This love language is just what it sounds like. You enjoy hearing compliments from your partner and getting praise from your partner. You like hearing words of appreciation, and you like being acknowledged for what you do. Being understood and being seen is very important to you in this love language. Now, this is interesting, because if you are in a relationship with a narcissist and this is your love language, then you're screwed, because they do not notice you or see you or hear you. So the odds of you being seen or recognized or acknowledged is pretty damn near 0. If they need something, they may acknowledge you or manipulate you. Oh my goodness, you are the best cook, darling. How about you make some of that great lasagna of yours? So whatever words of affirmation you hear are more likely manipulative affirmations from a narcissist. Interestingly, narcissists need tons and tons of words of affirmation. And if I were to make a bet, obviously I've never seen any research on this, so this is a bet, is that words of affirmation may be a narcissist's most likely love language for themselves. Now, if this is yours and you're with a narcissist, like I said, you're sunk, because your love language is never going to be heard or met. And if you had a narcissistic parent, and this is something maybe you always craved and needed, you probably never got it growing up, which may have really built up your appetite for wanting these affirmations, making it even worse that you ended up in a relationship with a narcissist, which is in essence an affirmation desert. In fact, you may keep giving these affirmative words to your narcissistic partner, maybe hoping to get some back, and never getting them back. That's about what we would expect. And it's the same at work. If you had a narcissistic boss, they will almost never give you words of affirmation unless it is in the service of manipulation. Now, the narcissist may tell you their love language themselves is words of affirmation as a manipulation which can leave you spending your days and nights affirming them, in essence, validating them. I promise you, there ain't enough words of affirmation out there to keep a narcissist content. The second love language is quality time. People who have the love language of quality time value quality time and have quality time as this language. They're able to be really mindfully present with other people and would love to get that quality time back. Folks with this style, they don't like being alone. They prefer sharing experiences with other people. They make time for other people. They make the time to write texts, letters, emails, and birthday cards. If you are in a relationship with a narcissist, you may be stuck spending a lot of time with them, but there's little quality to it. Because a person with the quality time love language may want someone to be present and aware and share experiences with them, a relationship with a narcissist then becomes a constant disappointment. You may be stuck spending lots of time with a narcissist, but they will tend to be distracted, disengaged, staring at their phone or the TV, or basically anything but you. You may have all kinds of texting and fun that came in the beginning of your relationship, but now all you may get is a text asking you what time dinner is. If quality time is your love language, you will often be starving. Again, if you came from a family with a narcissistic parent, you also know that quality time was missing from the jump. Your parents would rarely be available, and if they were, it would be on their schedule or when it would make them look good to other people. If your narcissist tells you that their love language is quality time, then be careful again. In this case, you may spin your wheels trying to spend all kinds of time being present with them and available and remembering to send them myriad texts and messages and all the quality of time things. But the utter lack of reciprocity from them will feel unkind and empty. They will drink up the quality time you give them, but they're entitled, so they expect it, because after all, it is their love language. The third love language is receiving gifts. If this is your love language, then you like getting gifts, big or small. You like little surprises. You like the intention that goes in someone giving you a gift, someone sending you a gift by mail, or getting flowers at the office. I gotta tell you, this is actually a very dangerous love language when it comes to narcissists, because this is one that narcissists are actually very good at, so it can get you stuck in this kind of a relationship. Narcissists can be really good at giving gifts when they want something or someone, or as a way of communicating love, because they can often just get someone else to get the gift and send it. They may be unavailable emotionally, but show up with a diamond bracelet, or make the big grandiose show of sending you dozens of roses at the office so everyone can see what a great partner you have. They may do a detailed, like, one gift a day scavenger hunt that you are mesmerized by. In some ways, if this is receiving gifts as your love language, you may in some ways be better equipped to endure a narcissist as long as you get a grandiose narcissist. But here's the problem. Most narcissists use gift giving as a way to sort of self-regulate their own insecurities. See, she has to stay with me. I gave her a big ring. Or they use gift giving as a manipulation. They need something from you, they give you something, and then they hold the gift over your head. During the love bombing phase, if your love language is receiving gifts, you may be particularly blinded to the other red flags, because grandiose narcissists in particular can be very gifty during the love bombing period of a relationship. But it's not unusual if before long, once they got you on the hook, they stop with the gifts. They may even start withholding them and then accuse you of only being in the relationship for the gifts. It can start to feel like a very uncomfortable space. And if you are in a relationship with a covert narcissist, they tend to be a bit more miserly. So if your love language is receiving gifts and somehow you end up with more of a vulnerable or a covert narcissist, then you may be forever frustrated because they won't remember those little things. Even if it's a pretty fall leaf, they won't pay attention to that. If your narcissist love language is receiving gifts, then you may spend days and weeks dreaming up perfect birthday or holiday or other gifts and go to elaborate lengths for them. The narcissist will often receive it as though they're simply entitled to it, and their rather anemic thank you can feel less than gratitude given the work or investment you put into it. And then you may also take pride in a special homemade gift you made for them, something very special, but perhaps not expensive, just priceless, honestly. And it can hurt when they sort of turn away or dismiss or minimize it, like, ugh, you made me a quilt? However, if this is your narcissist love language, then it's pretty easy to play this game. Giving them a gift can get you traction. I know that's manipulative to say, but it's true. But this can get time-consuming and expensive and feel really inauthentic after a while. The next love language is physical touch. This is your love language, this is when you like public shows of affection, to give and receive physical affection. You like being touched, hugged, snuggling, and love kissing. You might even want to go and get couples massages with your partner. You want touch and intimacy with a partner. If your partner is a narcissist, this can be a mixed bag. Many narcissists actually want to have sex a lot, but it tends to be sex devoid of intimacy. It can be performative sex, experimental sex, demeaning sex, but not connected sex. Narcissistic partners may actually enjoy public shows of affection, especially if they are very attracted to a partner, because it is, after all, a show. It's attention seeking, and it's a way to show off the adoration their attractive partner has for them. So some people in narcissistic relationships may get, if that's your love language, you may get your physical touch need met initially, but it may not be accompanied by true depth or intimacy. But alas, if your partner is more of a vulnerable or covert narcissist, then you're in a bit of trouble. Covert narcissists may be quite socially anxious and uncomfortable with public shows of affection, and they may even angrily brush you off if you were trying to hold their hand or put your arms around them. Their incapacity for intimacy may make physical touch literally uncomfortable for them, which can be quite isolating if this is your love language. Now, what about if your narcissistic partner's love language is physical touch? Then be prepared for a very touchy partner who may react angrily if you aren't always being physical with them when they want, how they want. And they may have rather unrealistic demands around sex, touch, their need for touch, which they may then turn around and manipulate into, my love language is physical touch, and you don't give me enough touch and closeness, so that's why I cheated on you, that's why I went to a shady massage parlor, etc., etc. It's also hard to want to touch someone or kiss someone who's just been gaslighting you. The fifth and final love language is acts of service. This is the love language of those who love when people help them out. Grocery shop for them, empty the dishwasher, remember to take out the trash cans, or gives you that hour you need to yourself to watch TV. This happens to be my love language. So people whose love language is acts of service, they feel loved up when someone remembers to just help out. They don't give a damn. I don't give a damn if there are no flowers on Valentine's Day. But let me tell you, they're absolutely thrilled if the fitted sheets are folded, the garage gets tidied up, and the trash cans always go out. If you have a narcissistic partner, they don't speak this language. If you are lucky, they might go to the grocery store, but not because you asked them, but because they wanted to pick up some beer. And if you're lucky, they texted you. And if you're lucky, they'll remember to bring home the milk you asked them to pick up. Acts of service love language people are often left holding the bag in a narcissistic relationship because unless the universe aligns perfectly right, there is little likelihood that the narcissist will do the things you need done, mostly because they don't notice you and what you need in the first place. However, they will often thrust their more grandiose ways of showing love, like giving you an expensive gift you don't need or want, or taking you to a very expensive dinner when honestly all you wanted was the laundry folded. It is pretty rare, I would guess, for a narcissist to have their love language be acts of service. But if it were, then you would likely feel like the narcissist's handmaiden or their handmaster, which, just as I say that, sounds actually really inappropriate, but you know what I mean. You could end up exhausting yourself in doing things for the unpleasable narcissist, cleaning and cooking and fixing and running errands, and they'll just milk it, treating you as their personal assistant, reminding you that their love language is acts of service and turning you into their permanent TaskRabbit in perpetuity. I know many people love the love language framework to understand relationships. I gotta tell you though, I see a real risk for this framework with narcissistic relationships. I think the love languages framework can put people at risk in narcissistic relationships and leave them more confused than they already are. And even more problematic, once a narcissist gets their hands on this framework, they can easily manipulate it. And before you know it, the only love language you are speaking is servitude, in service to the narcissist's love language to the detriment of your own health and well-being. You may speak the language of justification, justifying the narcissist's behavior on the basis of his or her love language. He's always mean in his words, but he says that to me because his love language is acts of service. Not so much. And I do not want to share with you the language I have to describe when a narcissist takes advantage of love languages to find one more way to gaslight you.
Now, some conversations I have had about one of the particular love languages, acts of service, have actually given me some pause on a tricky bit about this particular love language. And I say this as somebody who's firmly an acts of service gal. So just in case you don't know that much about it, I'm going to give you a quick recap of the whole love language lexicon thing. A love language speaks to how you prefer to communicate and receive love. For example, if your love language is physical touch, you really want physical touch and affection, and you communicate your love to someone else in that way. So on this acts of service love language, that dishwasher emptying and trash can bringing in and grocery shopping doing and tax preparation could really be communications of love to you if you would receive them that way, or you may show it that way. But it's an interesting conundrum in narcissistic relationships. Now listen, it doesn't seem terribly romantic that someone painting the bathroom could be akin to a walk on the beach at sunset, or a piece of jewelry, or being told you are the best person that they know, but that's how these languages work. It's not necessarily about what standard romance is, it's about what love means to someone. Now, for people, especially those of you who have faced narcissistic relationships and multiple narcissistic relationships in your lives, and this could even be multiple adult narcissistic relationships or even childhood relationships, the fact is, if you weather enough narcissistic relationships, you learn that you cannot count on other people for much and often end up having to do lots of things for yourself. It becomes less exhausting than asking the narcissistic person to do what you need them to do, or getting into arguments with them, or just being hurt by being told that you're too demanding or needy. Throw in some of that narcissistic entitlement. How dare you ask them to do stuff for you? And for all of that drama, you are better off just bringing in the damn trash cans yourself and not get into the whole relationships are supposed to be equitable and please be mindful, because it's not going to happen in this relationship. So that means, this goes back to almost some of that breadcrumbing stuff. That means if someone does do something helpful for you, and I've talked about that on this channel recently, they fix something or move something or help you with a move or just help you with anything. if you have been through narcissistic relationship or relationships, you can get fawny and overly gratitude-y because you can't believe that one day you could come home to folded laundry or a trash can put away. You simply can't believe it. You certainly can't rely on it, but you can't believe it. And that thing may have made your day easier. But when you have that really strong reaction to that, you might believe like, oh, I'm so excited about these trash cans. My love language must be acts of service. This person organized my cutlery drawer and it felt like sunset at the beach in Bora Bora. So here's the issue. You may be so ecstatic that someone would do something that addresses a very simple need that you might be able to convince yourself that, yep, this is it. When someone does something I need and I love them, that means acts of service is my love language. But could it simply be that if someone is addressing one of the many things you need done around the house or in the office or in your life, that it's such a momentary relief or momentary respite that you believe to just have that break for a minute, maybe this trash can stuff or dishwasher stuff is what love means to me. But really that deprivation of having your needs ever met for a long time can mean that those little acts of service get a lot of juice in your life and may obscure what may be other equally important love languages to you. Narcissistic relationships chronically put us on our back foot and into survival mode. So then we are grateful when anything in survival is made easy. But all of this survival can block us from seeing what may actually matter to us at a higher level once those baseline survival needs are met. It may be that if you just have a balanced relationship in which trash cans are brought in equitably just because it's a healthy relationship, that you might find that those acts of service don't actually represent love to you. They're nice and you do them for each other, but in fact you may find that other things like words of affirmation, I mean, perish the thought that you get a word of affirmation if you were in a narcissistic relationship, or other love languages like quality time would actually get a chance to emerge for you. Narcissistic relationships are about survival. And so maybe love languages and that entire model don't apply in these relationships, and we're better versed to talk about survival languages. And these may relate to things like what gets things done in this relationship without conflict, what keeps me from getting yelled at, what minimizes gaslighting. So for all of you out there who are my acts of service folks, before we truly believe that this is our love language, we have to stop and reflect on a world in which your service needs, as it were, just the regular stuff of life, are shared and balanced in a healthy way. Listen, even after thinking on this video, I still do believe that acts of service is my love language, and I definitely do show love by helping people find the best airfare or picking them up at the airport. But I gotta tell you, I'm really chintzy with the hugs and the words of affirmation. And if you were come here and tidy my kitchen, clean up my fridge, or hang up my pictures, it would be ecstasy for me, the likes of which a Pablo Neruda poem could not capture. But that said, as a survivor, I acknowledge I have a very difficult time expressing my needs about those trash cans and dishwashers. And so when one of those dozens of daily needs gets met without me having to go through the vulnerability of expressing it, that's really primal, heady stuff for me. But I had a long run. If somebody did help me with laundry, empty dishwashers, help me with the closets, help me with airport pickups, would I find another love language? Who knows? But I do know that there are lots of folks out there who may believe that the acts of service are their thing simply because they rarely got to ever occupy a world where even the most basic needs were met. Remember that breadcrumbing phenomenology of a narcissistic relationship. You get by on less and less and less. You're subsisting on those little breadcrumbs that you get in these relationships, like, oh, my coat was hung up. Ooh, the towel was lifted off the floor. That when someone actually empties an entire dishwasher, it's like they've put a 5-course meal in front of you with candles and the whole thing. And so that breadcrumbing plays into, I think a lot of folks in narcissistic relationships may think acts of service are their thing, because acts of service implies a sort of spontaneous meeting of needs. The person does the thing without asking, or they do it happily or with grace. And so when that's happening so easily without a person who's been through narcissistic abuse, who has trouble expressing needs, having that happen, honestly, like I said, it's sheer ecstasy. So again, to all of my acts of servicers out there, before you think that vacuuming the rugs qualifies as foreplay or emptying the dishwasher is love bombing, take a step back and wonder what it would be like to live in a world where those things were happening. How would love be expressed and received by you in that universe? Let's talk about why love bombing gets really confusing depending on those damned love languages. Somebody sent me in a question about this specific issue, and their question was, could love bombing be misinterpreted as acts of service? Thought it was a really interesting question. They sent it in a while ago, and I pondered it for a while. So in case there are some of you out there who don't know about the love languages, I never want to assume everybody knows these sort of little things. I know this one's a pretty universal one, but just in case, they're sort of meant to be this sort of framework for what it is that we as individuals need in a relationship, and how we also, the form in which we give love to others in a relationship. Where it gets complicated is when we get into a relationship with someone whose love language is very different from ours. Now, again, if you don't know, the different love languages are physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, gift giving, and acts of service. So this person's really specifically focused on the acts of service one, right? Now, acts of service means showing or wanting to receive love through these alleged acts of service, which could be someone doing the dishes, or building a bookshelf, or doing the taxes, or folding the laundry, or driving you to the airport. Those gestures either are the way of showing love or wanting to receive love. And if that is your love language, when someone does those acts of service for you, according to this model, it can be quite spellbinding. And I've talked about this before. I've taken this love language test. There wasn't even a close second for me. I'm acts of service all day. Put out my trash cans and I will think I was hit by Cupid's arrow. And my idea of giving a holiday gift for someone is like getting their car washed or their closet organized. And if somebody wanted to do those things for me, best present ever. I thought the question was an interesting one because love bombing is obviously going to be more powerful if it intersects with your alleged love language. If, for example, your love language was quality time, a love bomber who spends lots of time with you, talking with you, hanging out with you, that's going to be more bomby. That's going to be more seductive. If you're a physical touch person, touchy, huggy, sensual, sexual love bombing, that may really hook you. But let's go back to those acts of service, what this person's asking about. Could it be that during the love bombing phase, that the love bomber was doing stuff for you? And instead of that, you seeing that as love bombing, that you may have experienced it as acts of service. Maybe they did things, like I said, pick you up from the airport, or help you fix things in your house, or go with you to the store to run a complicated errand, or watch your dog when you're out of town. The tricky bit about love bombing is that it is sometimes hard to discern from just someone who is really into you. So, and if your groove is acts of service, and early in the relationship, this person is doing stuff for you, lots of stuff that could be experienced as merely acts of service, it's understandable why you would think you've hit the relationship lottery. Now, what you got to remember is love bombing is not just as simple as the behaviors that happen in these relationships. Love bombing is part of sort of an overall attitude and process. It can, now, in general, love bombing sort of feels like a lot, like it's intense. But this question was a very good one, because if a love bomber does stuff that feels very helpful, honestly, it would be all but impossible to tell where the acts of service end and where the love bombing begins. You would have to literally keep an eagle eye out for other patterns. Are they controlling in how they approach the acts of service? Are they telling you that you're doing things wrong? That they telling you that they know how to do these things better than you? Or they're very, very insistent. And you may say like, hey, I can do this myself. And then they may seem to imply that they have to be the one to do it. And you may think, damn, I have always wanted someone to come along and be an acts of service person. And here is this person doing all of this stuff for me. So maybe I shouldn't get caught up in how intense they're being. You may justify or sort of push away some of that intense stuff because they're doing the thing you really appreciate, which is those acts of service. The beginning of a relationship is hard enough without also having to become a love bomb detector. And if you have the unique bad luck of the narcissistic love bomber just happening to love bomb exactly the way your love language works, and even if you don't believe in the love bomb, if you don't believe in love languages, I get that. Just simply to do what you value in a relationship, I hate to say it, but it's a pretty good bet that you're probably not going to pick up on it as being a love bomb. In fact, if the person's approach is not in sync with your love language, so for example, if they're more of a gift giver and you're more of an acts of service person, then their love bombing may seem interesting and compelling, but not bewitching in the way that a love bombing experience that lines up with what matters to you can feel like. Listen, I have heard tales of people being love bombed by someone who showed up and helped them get like 10 years of projects done and stuff done in a matter of months, or was willing to do the driving and the pickups and the helpful behaviors to them that meant to the world to them. And then that signified love. So they got really stuck. I have to say, this is one of those videos where I don't have any great answers, but maybe some awareness. If anything, it's meant to be one that asks you to show more grace to yourself when you say, oh, how did I fall for the love bombing? Love means different things to us beyond the emotional connection, empathy, and compassion. It can also be folded laundry or an airport pickup at rush hour. It can mean that the love bombing that hit your love language was an explosion that you were not going to be able to easily avoid and step back from. And it was a moment, it can feel like a moment of being seen that can sweep you away like no other. It's tricky. These relationships are easy to get into. I guess you got a 1 in 5 chance that they're going to hit you on that one love languagey thing that matters to you. And that can take that love bombing and make it profound. But it's very easy to see how the doing that happens early in a relationship could be interpreted as acts of service and be missed as the love bombing experience that it really is. Hope that was helpful, and thanks again.